Let's talk Indiana. We have problems.
Project 2025. Many of you have already heard about it. Some of you are just learning about it, but much of it is already underway here in Indiana.
This limited series podcast highlights many elements of Project 2025 and how it impacts Indiana. All right, how you doing, everybody? Welcome aboard. Let's talk Indiana. This is our fourth installment. We're going to talk about a number of things. I have Mary Noone and Dana Black, as always, with me. This is Mark, your host on My Labor Radio. Today, we're going to talk about the Agenda 47, Project 2025, and the mix they have to destroy the environment in our state and the environmental impact those things will have. When they want to do things, I mean, we're going to talk about water in Indiana, things like that, the LEAP project. We'll get to that in a little bit. We have some other great, exciting things to talk to, but I want to make sure we understand that they really want to dismantle the Environmental Protection Agency. And that's part of that whole thing we've talked about in the past, where we're taking individual silos of government agencies and just destroying them from the top down and dismantling that. And who suffers the most from that? Increased exposure to pollutants will lead to higher rates of asthma, heart disease, cancer in communities that are the most impacted, which are always the folks that's not the rich people. They're not getting it. Although Indiana does have the most polluted waterways in any state. But I digress. Let's get back to the real deal and talk to Dana Black and Mary Noone and find out where we're at right now with you guys. How's your world doing right now?
So do you want me to start off, Mary? Or you want to start off?
Okay, either way. Go ahead, Dana.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that's okay. It's okay. That's why, when you're homies and you're chopping it up, everybody wants to share what kind of week they've had. And
Right.
I'll tell you what, as a Democrat, this is one of the best weeks ever. Okay,
Yes.
Look, I was down in Louisville for the NCSL. NCSL is the National Conference of State Legislators. And I was there with my employer, Act Blue. I was working the booth because we were tabling. And you could definitely tell the difference between the Republicans who walk past the booth and when Democrats walk past the booth. When Republicans walk past, they looked like they had a tummy ache and that they wanted to go home and cry and go wee all the way home. And Democrats will walk past our Act Blue booth and they were thumbs up and they were cheering and they were exciting. Listen, this moment is a moment and is also a movement. Quick story. I saw Bob Banning. He came by the booth. And I know who he is. He didn't know who I was because I've watched him try to dismantle public education every day in session because that's what he's trying to do. And I shook his hand and I said, "Hey, Bob, how you doing? I'm Indiana's own Dana Black." And he was like, "Oh, what is Act Blue?" And I said, "Oh, you don't know what Act Blue is?" He's like,
What
"No."
a tool.
I said, "Oh, I thought you guys knew because I'd heard that you were working on legislation to make it harder for people to donate to us. But no matter, we are a better version of WinRed." And he just kind of looked at me. I had to get a little assholery in.
You have to take those swings when the moment comes.
Because we have a super minority. I don't actually get to go to the State House like I want to, but him walking to my booth in my space, I got to tell him, this is, I know you know who Ag Blue is because we raking in all the money.
Right.
Yeah.
What a tool. I love these guys. They play this innocence like I had no idea when they talk about it endlessly.
Exactly.
Yeah, my bullshit meter just went up on that one.
Because it was BS, but it felt good to just say we're the better version of that other one that they use. And he knew what that was.
Totally.
Mary,
Awesome.
what's up with you?
Oh, cue the music. Okay, that just sums up my week, how I was last week. So a bunch of friends and I got in the car and we drove to Detroit. As you can hear in my voice, I'm still flying high. And we got to see in person Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and we were on fire. It was amazing. I met so many new people. We have pictures and exchanged phone numbers. The energy, it wasn't AI generated, that's for sure. I was there.
What? Are you sure?
Right,
Yeah.
right. It was amazing. The airplane behind us lands. You watch it coming in. The
Like a
airplane
boss, just entered like a boss.
and she just entered it. And the sun, you could not have asked for it. The journalists, the photographers must have been on cloud nine. You couldn't have cued the light better. The way the hangar was coming in and we were waiting for someone for so long. The young girls were excited. I've never seen, thank
This is our
God
time.
parents were taking their young kids out of school or programs or whatever they're in right now. And they were making the day in the treks, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
Lucky you.
I could not be happy that I took it. I felt the energy, and boy, was it electric. The unions put on a great show. They were the hosts that day. The auto
Lots
union.
of speeches. You got pre-speeches before they got there, didn't you?
Pre-speeches, Melissa Slotkin and Governor Whitmore and the outgoing senator in Michigan. It was fabulous. The governor of Detroit, the mayor of Detroit, and he talked about water. He talked about what they've been doing in Michigan to revitalize Flint and save the water, and that is the Biden administration, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. What kills me about the week that we had as Democrats, it was amazing. We were all flying high. She went from rally to rally. The numbers increased, the excitement, the groundswell, the grassroots. So it's just organic. And of course, we have the orange man saying he didn't like all the attention, so then he holds a presser. Because he has to. If attention's not on him, he's got to hold a presser.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. But you know what? After that presser, we've got to give a shout out to NPR and Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence O'Donnell did a really good segment piece on all the lies and what the media did for not calling out the lies and the 162 lies
Oh my God, yes.
Yep.
Well, I don't understand why they're not fact checking him at the time of the presser. I mean, they just let him ramble on.
If you saw who that press group was, it was not a lot of people you regularly saw doing.
Yeah.
They were all friendlies, and that's what I think they controlled what was coming in. Like put a filter out and said, "Oh yeah, you can't." Only those that are actually hanging around Mar-a-Lago right now at that moment, because it all came out of the back pocket. His staff spent the entire days or weeks ahead of that going, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't." They already know how volatile it was, and he went and said, "I'm smarter than my staff. I'll show you."
And he's proven them wrong every time. I mean, honestly, that was the worst thing ever. I know MSNBC, here's the thing: they covered it, right? They didn't even have to cover it. I know
end to end,
they covered it. They could have taken that off. That was 90 minutes or whatever it was of lie after lie after lie. And the guy, he's not offering anything. He's not making any of us better when he opens his mouth. So what is the purpose?
No.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, because we're all talking about Project 25. He's trying desperately to give us something else to talk about because he knows how bad Project 2025 is. The reason why we came together was to talk about this, to really discuss that we have prime examples that this strategy that they're rolling out of their policy agenda is actually already happening here in Indiana.
Right.
And the real thing I came across this week, it really helps us better understand what Project 2025 is that you can really break it up into three pillars. One, it's dismantling the federal agencies that we know that come under the presidency to give him more power. It's taking away our freedoms. And three, the other final big component of it, we talked about a little bit about it last week, is the element of the white Christian nationalist movement that's embedded, right?
Yep.
That Micah Beckwith,
so true.
That Micah Beckwith is definitely a white Christian nationalist. In fact, I'm going to play the clip from YouTube where he actually encourages people to become Christian nationalists. Check this out, y'all.
Here's 3 reasons why you should be a Christian nationalist. Jesus, first of all, said, go out and make disciples of all nations. Nations are boundaries, borders, constitutions. Nations are what we have. We have been given something to steward, and that is the nation. Number 2, Jesus said, on this rock, I will build my ecclesia. The ecclesia was not the synagogue. It wasn't the temple. We've translated it to church, but that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said the ecclesia, which is the Greek city center. It was the town public square where all the politics happened. He said, you're going to take the gospel, you're going to go into the public square, and you're going to revolutionize and reform the government. And out of that will be good boundaries that will be placed in society, and we will see the gospel flourish because of that. And then number 3, there's a long list of traditions of great biblical characters, both in the scripture, but then also even in our history, traditions of godly people, God-fearing people getting involved in politics. You have Daniel, you have Esther, you have David, you have Solomon. So you have a job to be a Christian nationalist. God is calling you to steward your nation. So take that mantle, take that responsibility, and walk boldly in it.
So yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. Like he makes it sound like it's a beautiful thing, and I know Christianity is a beautiful thing, but the nonsense that these folks are spewing is really scary. And as an LGBTQ plus woman of color, I'm terrified what's going to happen in Indiana if Braun and Beckwith become governor and lieutenant governor.
We should, and that's a serious case right there. Governor McCormick has already given us what we need. She's been to every county in this state. She didn't just start this last Tuesday. She's been at it for well over 2 years. That's who we need to have. If you haven't heard from her or talked to her, it's easy. It's incumbent on you to find out more about Jennifer McCormick, because she is a great alternative to what these guys are spewing.
Yeah. And this white Christian national movement, it's real, it's happening. I hope maybe last week our listeners dove in and looked up the 7 mandates that they're claiming to embody this white Christian nationalists. And I actually was going through in my emails, got some information from our other activists on the ground. There is a great presentation happening on August 21st. We'll drop a link in the chat. It is being put on by the Women for Change, Mad Voters, and Red, Wine, and Blue, that larger organization. It's a screening of bad faith, Christian nationalism, unholy war on democracy. And there's a screening of it, and then followed by the screening, one of the authors is going to have a panel discussion to really dive into this issue, because in the preview, if you look at the preview screening that we'll put the link in the for this program, they actually talk about the 7 mandates. So I invite our listeners to make the opportunity, carve out the time in your schedule. This is an important meeting and panel discussion to attend.
Absolutely. And we can't be afraid to talk about, I know that they say Christian nationalists, but I need us to understand this is white Christian nationalists. It is, you might as well say, the Aryan Nation, you might as well say the KKK, you might as well say any number of the White Citizens Council. This is what this is. And this is an attempt to, to be the dominant race in a nation full of immigrants. We are all immigrants. In fact, why do you think we won so many more medals at the Olympics than any other country? Because we are the
diversity.
Country. We're the country that's made up of all those other people from all those other places. And so that's what makes us, dominant when it comes to athletics. It makes us, we're unique in so many ways, because the Olympic sports are a vast majority of different types of sports. And so we have different types of people with different types of skill sets. But these guys don't want that.
No.
Yeah.
What gets me is they're missing their history. The history teacher in me comes out. Do you not know what Madison meant with the separation of church and state?
No, they don't.
They do not.
They literally don't.
As Marjorie Taylor Greene said, I'm tired of it. Tired of it? What?
I literally wrote a piece in the IBJ talking about the separation of church and state and how they may have a reading comprehension issue with what the Constitution said. And people were actually, commenting that I didn't know what I was talking about. And I'm like, you guys are suckers, man.
Yeah, fell for it. Yeah.
Yep.
I have a friend of mine who's of Episcopalian faith, and he and I have always had discussions about this stuff. He's very concerned about a Micah Beckwith and his plan for the future. He sees where it's headed. And when I started talking to him about the 7 Mountains mandate, as you talked about, Mary, you know what he said?
What?
Salem witch trials. That's what he went back to in his mind. He said, this makes me think of Salem witch trials. That's what's next, is the little person on the corner says, he's a witch, he's a warlock, she's a witch, whatever. And off you go. You're going to one of those detention camps. We're going to get you out of here.
Now, one thing I will say, this is evidence, I know that a lot of people don't want to believe that, in evolution. They don't want to believe in evolution. But this is a prime example where humans have not evolved. They are still prone to conspiracies. They're still prone to superstitions. They're still prone to false truths. So, maybe we've evolved and we're a taller species or we're more united. But when it comes to the brain, we're still only using about 10% of it?
Yeah.
And that's not everybody's using 10%. Okay. Sorry.
Which gets me is it's not that religion doesn't have a place in our society to bring together people, community, to help serve each other, to help each other in need, but it's the separation of church and state saying you have to follow my religion. Mine's right and yours wrong.
Absolutely.
And that's the epitome of the problem. And if you actually look into Madison's documents, he actually says later in life, I think I goofed. I didn't put enough safeguards in the writings of the Declaration, the Constitution, to actually prevent some of this. So there is evidence that they wanted to go further, but they had a lot of hope in mankind but in their framing, and I don't think they anticipated a Trump. That's for sure.
Well, the other thing was that they also didn't anticipate, mediocre white dudes running for office. When they set this thing up, they were looking for exceptional thinkers. Obviously, women weren't going to be included, and obviously people of color and Native Americans were not included, but they never imagined that it wouldn't be someone who was smart and intelligent and learned and had some education. These clowns are offended by education, and their president, their God, their orange deity told them, I love the poorly educated. I don't want anybody to be poorly educated, but this is what happens when you can't properly disseminate information.
Right. And it's the norms, because you look at Washington, right? Not to get too history buffy here, but he realized he stepped down as from highest office in the first presidency, saying 2 years, 2 terms, that's enough. And respecting the office and respecting the office of the power that it comes with. And now we have people in running for office who want more power. And that's the job. That's the drug right there.
And whenever I hear somebody say, make America great again, I want to know, when are you talking about? How far back do you want to go?
What year? What are you talking about?
It's scary. It's scary.
Right.
Mark, you were about to say something. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So I think about a number of these things all coming together. And the unfortunate part is that if they start dismantling these major pieces of things that we've fought for our neighborhoods, I mean, the Cuyahoga River catches on fire. Well, that was only 60 years ago. So don't think it's not going to happen again. If we are the most polluted state, I mean, right now we are 19th in the nation for ozone pollution in the state of Indiana and overall air quality, 16th worst state for air and water together pollution, and one of the #1 states with the most polluted streams and rivers. So we were already at that point. Now you take away every federal agency that's going to oversee any of that. Couple that with worker protections, because now you're taking away that. Now you've done away with OSHA. Now you've done away with Indiana OSHA. They're going to do away with workman's compensation. You got a little sick at work? Sorry. Next. Who's next? Who's next to come in here? Go to the bullpen, get me the left-hander. It's serious that we have to look at it this way. The companies that are doing these things are not there for your benefit.
No,
they're there to benefit their shareholders and the people at the top, the CEOs that don't live in these neighborhoods where all this stuff is spewing out. They're worried about themselves and what they're going to make. They're not worried about you and what the results are. There was a company here in Roanoke, Indiana. When they finally busted them, they had a little stream. They were pouring zinc right into the stream because they just poured it down the drain. They got busted. They were closed. The building's closed. It's been cleaned up now. It's a really nice shop. But it goes back to, we cannot forget our past. And that's unfortunately in the last 20 years that happened. But my point is that we can't give them the power to be able to oversee all these agencies and start dismantling them. What is your thinking, Project 2025 or Agenda 47, when you come in to say, about 50,000 government employees, we're going to just get rid of them and replace them with our hacks who don't know anything about anything, specifically in the environmental world, because they don't believe in science. They don't believe in climate. They want to pull us from the Paris Climate Accord, and the list goes on. But anyway, that was the soapbox I wanted to climb on.
I think the list is really important because the we're talking about the environment today. We're talking about their goal to dismantle this federal agency and everything it overcomes, and we'll keep diving into this. But there's one, I would say about 6 pillars that really will impact us. Either going to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Mark, you mentioned this, withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. They're going to reduce green energy, all that green energy and expansion with the rest of the world is doing that.
Right.
They're going to move away from that. They're saying, yes, go for it. Use more chemicals. Go for it. And
that's always a good idea.
Right. More air pollutants. And the final one, which you've seen, and we're going to talk more about this, they want to expand drilling for fossil fuel and gas. And
that drill, baby, drill.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother. And all this is happening in Indiana. All of it, except for the drill, baby, drill. But
well, the burning.
Give them a chance.
Yeah, no. So if you think about it, when I started diving into this a lot more, it just drives me, makes my head go bonkers, because when you drive into it, this is basically going to eliminate protections or law enforcement. Think of it, law enforcement agencies. When there's a water problem or there's a pollutant problem, to go and inspect it, so our air and water, as you already mentioned, is already dirty. Now we'll have nobody to say, hey, can we fix this? We can't turn on the tap and drink the water. Right. So that means gutting all those agencies that come out and test the water. They're going to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act and all those investments in renewable energy. And it goes back to the why. Why are they doing this? Because they want to drill for the fossil fuels.
Absolutely.
And it comes to it boggles my mind, because to me, it's a soundbite. Drill, baby, drill sounds great when you talk about the fact that, we need to drill more gas, more oil. And the only reason why Trump thinks about that, because if you're really following this, the United States over the last 2 years has actually produced more oil that they actually have produced in the United States and compared globally. And secondly, we are producing and shipping over more gas right now overseas, because our European counterparts like Germany and the other companies over in that section of Europe cannot get it from Russia right now because of the war. So he thinks, dollar signs now, but that's only temporary, because if you follow it along, the EU and Germany has more environmental agreements in place that this is only temporary. You only see the influx of us giving more capacity overseas because of the war. So it's like his short-term thinking. He just sees dollar signs, his folks, the oil, the drilling, all that. I mean, I can go on, but
that drill, baby, drill is a Sarah Palin thing. That's how sad their programs are. It's so rooted in something, 18 years ago now. Stop.
But again, this is another example of not willing to evolve. We're all people of a certain age. Do you remember your first Casio calculator or your first Casio watch?
It was a big deal.
And it had solar panels on it. And you could go pull that thing out right now and you could turn it on and it will still work. Now, I'm trying to figure out how solar panels on a calculator obviously don't require as much energy, but those solar panels still work. Why are we not evolving, with the technology is there? I understand some people say the waste that's generated from creating the solar panel is kind of high. Yeah, there's going to be waste, but we can also recycle, right? So it may cost a little more in the beginning, but we save in the long run, right? Wind, we know windmills been around forever. I mean, my name is Dana. It's a Dutch name. The Danish, that windmills have been around forever. So these folks have tapped into what is essentially a money-making, profitable thing, because we all love our cars, and I'm just as guilty. I'm super guilty. I love my car.
The independence thing? They want you to be indendent. Yes. Absolutely. You don't need public transportation. Get off the train, get off the bus.
If I could get to wherever I wanted to go on a train or, public transportation, I would do it. But since I can't get from, let's say, Indianapolis to French Lick, on a train, I got to get in my car. The other thing is, I want to circle back because you guys are talking about water. There's also an environmental justice movement in Black and brown communities, because we see what happened in Flint That's not happening it is happening all over, but what happened in Flint would never happen into a majority, white community. Look at what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi. They still don't have water down there. And that's been going on a couple of years now. And how does this even happen? Well, white flight. White folks move out. They take their tax dollars with them. They take their tax base with them. And then the state does not reinvest in, the majority minority city. So you have places like Jackson, Mississippi, Flint, Michigan, and a host of other, racially diverse and majority minority communities who will be the worst. They will be the worst victims of this environmental injustice. And so if Project 2025 takes a hold, it's going to, again, disproportionately impact people of color. So I need y'all to get with this thing and understand why. And when we get ready to talk about how this is happening in Indiana, can we talk about, wetlands and what they are already doing at the State House?
Yes. I mean, like, to add to your point, Dana, in Louisiana, Cancer Alley. Those are when they're going to eliminate, it's clearly stated the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights will be gone. And it reminds me of a case, which is very similar back in Massachusetts. Big movie was made about it called Civil Action. John Travolta started it, but it was a lawsuit with 8 families in Woburn who were in this one neighborhood. And it was right near Beatrice. Beatrice was the food company that was there, and their water was contaminated because out of those 8 families, their young children, why is there such a large number of leukemia kids in this one neighborhood?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it came down to the water. It came down to the water because the chemicals that company was using was filtered through the water and going into the water source. And therefore those families had a higher number of cancer rates. And without those agencies to come in and test the water, that would have continued and continued.
Yeah. And think about how hard it is for a family to receive restitution from these large organizations. These folks think about it, you get rid of the agency that is protecting you. The big business does something really bad, like dump zinc, and people get cancer.
Correct.
And we find out, the big company did it. We need restitution. The big company says, I got 20 lawyers. What you got?
And they're waiting just for their day in court, and they're going to just drag it out for years. And so again, it's about humanity and protecting humanity, because big businesses, we will never be able to compete. I mean, Erin Brockovich was my favorite, right? Activist story, right? Where she, y'all know the story. But this is what happens. Trying to fight corporations that have a legal team the size of the Justice Department is going to be a tough way to go if we don't have federal protections, state protections, things like that. Yeah. I think one of the things I've heard Trump say in the last 10 days was that the EPA has ruined the gas and oil industry, and I will shut it down. And that was met with cheers. Everybody at this rally cheered for him when he said that. Unfortunately, I'm sick enough that I watch these things regularly to see what his new shtick is. He doesn't have one.
He does not.
It's the same thing over and over again. It's the same violin he's played over and over. And people are walking out of these rallies, and there's very few of them going there. But let's talk for a hot second. He owes money in so many communities.
He can't land his plane.
Much less give anything. That's why he's in the middle of Pennsylvania at somebody's farm, because they haven't been burned yet. So it's just the list goes on. Anyway,
he owes so much money. And again, we talked about those videos. I can't wait till we talk about the training videos. But but the fact that you owe so much money to so many different communities, and these people are still supporting you, and he has not paid you. He hasn't. Your community hasn't benefited one bit with him physically coming in there. Golly.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about the right thing that really has to be brought forward, because when you look at Project 2025 and all the things they're doing, some authors and some political pundits are finally coming out. And you remember in 2016 and Trump got elected and everybody said, oh, he was able to, the reason behind his movement was economics. He could really, no, you got to look under the hood.
Yeah. Don't let the shiny object in front there take you away.
What was it, seven bankruptcies?
Right. No, but what I meant was he was trying to attract people into his movement because I'm going to lift you up economically. And the coalition that he was trying to bring, but it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with it's racism. The things that he was implementing and these policies, when you look at it, what are these people in power really afraid of? What are they really afraid
Smart
of?
black women.
You got it. I mean, when you look at it, I was like, okay, this is so true. When you look at his patterns, you look at the policies they're implementing, they're losing power. I keep coming back to that word. In 1998, white people accounted for about 80% of the US population. In 2024, white people account for 58% of the population. The population is shifting, and the people in power don't like that.
Heck no, they don't like it. That's why they are making sure that y'all make babies, make lots and lots of babies, and
that's
seal
still
off the border and all the things. But you know what? The mixed race, our mixed race citizens are our fastest growing population, right?
Exactly.
Because people, those of us in the Gen X community, we grew up in mixed race schools. We didn't have segregated schools. At least I didn't. I know that there were still some segregated schools, but we were used to being around each other, and it wasn't unusual to fall in love with someone who was different than yourselves. Trust me, I had to have a different conversation with my parents, but so the mixed race children, like Vice President Kamala Harris, are the fastest growing. And so when we say, the white population is going down, it's not our fault. They made the rule, 1 drop rule. Y'all know the 1 drop rule, right? 1 drop of black is you black, right?
Right.
So they made the rule in this race construct, and now it's coming back to bite them in the behind. Because y'all, they say chocolate is a natural aphrodisiac. I don't know.
I can't comment either. But I've heard.
Listen. So you're right. You make a fabulous point, and I'm always going to try to keep it light, but you make a fabulous point.
Yeah. I think, Dana, you also brought up a really good point about how is this impacting Indiana, the environment, the wetlands. We just had a big to-do over here out in the Northeast area with Microsoft coming. And at first, we didn't know it was going to be Microsoft. It was this big data center. And I remember being on Facebook groups. People were all up in arms. Big community meeting happened. 300 people showed up because the project was down the tracks. It was down the tracks pulling into the station. And I kept jumping on politely on the Facebook group saying, hey, this was already decided last year. Let me explain why. Because people were concerned about the wetlands here. There's a river that this project's going to run through. People like, what about the power lines? What about the water supply for data? And these data centers, the energy it requires. If you go back to the 2023 session, I was explaining to folks, hey, do you remember that bill that they reclassified our wetlands? Because on the Facebook group, people were like, okay, we want new jobs, but can we have them come do an environmental study? Can we have a better plan put in place? Can we ask?
Not anymore.
I was like, you missed the boat. Your head was down, unfortunately. And that reclassification, they don't have to do that anymore. The companies don't have to come in and do a study to this area. So the people you're electing to our state house are rigging the rules against you right now.
Absolutely. And
I would tie that, sorry, Dana Black, I would tie that to look what's going on in Sarasota, Florida. Those people bought houses in subdivisions they thought were going to be something they could just turn over to family members. Their houses are all underwater. It's all worthless. And you find out that was a wetland extension that should never have done that, but the developers conned everybody into it, and it all happened years ago while you were sleeping. This happens. Same thing can happen to us here too.
Absolutely. It's already happening, right? But
it's hatching. Yes.
Every legislative session for the last 3 or 4, there have been new pieces of legislation being introduced in our state house to protect more wetlands in Indiana for development. Well, what does that do? Okay, a lot of people don't understand wetlands are a protection. So if you keep having a once in a generation or once in 100-year flood in your town every 5 years, it's because you no longer have those wetland protections protecting your community. And again, it's the same communities, small towns, because Marion County is going to have some drainage. We'll be fine, right? The big city that's horrible to live in, we'll be fine. But small towns like Peru or some other rural town, they will have the flooding And it's their legislators who are passing the bills that make it so that your insurance premiums go through the roof for flood
Right.
insurance. You have to pay to rebuild all the things, all the lost revenue from any businesses that you may have downtown that's flooding out. I mean, but these are the guys that are doing it. So this is all tied to what this Project 2025 thing is of, hey, let's get rid of the wetlands. Let's build it up. Let's do some more, projects and put people in places where the land is no longer protected. Also, one last point, when we talk about Project 2025 environmental in Indiana, think about our farming industry. If we're not protecting the wetlands, what return are our farmers, what little private farmers we have left, will they have when their crops are destroyed because we don't have those natural protections?
Right.
Yeah.
What's really interesting, and this is just floors me, is when the more and more you look at Project 2025, again, we find numerous examples of this happening in Indiana. I'll ask the question, and I know you guys will know this, when we talk about the chemicals. What happened in our legislation in 2024? What were they trying to do with the various toxic chemicals that are used in the manufacturing industry?
Yes.
Mhm.
Right? Maureen
right.
Bauer was spearheading that fight,
Yeah.
and our Indiana General Assembly wanted to reclassify these toxic chemicals, their PFASs.
I remember that.
Right? And she had to fight tooth and nail. And the federal government and chemical agencies have already classified a certain level of these chemicals that should not be used, should not be going into our water system, airways. And our Indiana General Assembly said, no, we're going to override science. We know better. We're just going to reclassify them because we think so.
Yeah, but they can't reclassify marijuana. What?
Right. And Dana, you bring up a good point when you talk about our farmers, especially in the rural areas. The Project 2025, Agenda 47, also wants to scrap ARC, which is the Agricultural Risk Insurance Program, and Price Loss Coverage, the PLC. Those are immediately things that go away with the EPA and the rest of them. So our farmers don't have any backstops to be able to support them when something like that even happens to their crops. It's devastating, and it will cause a lot more pain than people can see right now.
Oh, dear gosh.
You know what? It floors me. So in this bill, I just need to read this because I think people need to step back and realize that this is what they're doing. The definition set forth by the EPA describes these PFAS as the following: widely used, long-lasting chemicals, components of which break down very slowly over time. Because of their widespread use and their persistence in the environment, many are found in the blood of people and animals all over the world, and are present at low levels in a variety of our food products and in the environment. The PFASs are found in water, fresh air, and soil at locations across the nation and the globe. With the amendment that Linda Rogers, she's from my area, put forward, these chemicals that are deemed harmful in other states would no longer be considered dangerous in Indiana. Ha! Really?
Yeah, so
Across the world.
non-scientists, again, bringing it forward.
According to what they put forth, those chemicals would no longer be recognized as harmful. Seriously?
So not only can you not filter the chemicals out because you're removing the wetlands, I wonder, you inspired me, Mary. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pull House Bill 1383 from the 2024 General Assembly session, which was authored by Representative Alan Morrison, co-authored by Representative Doug Miller, Timothy Wesco, and J.D. Prescott, and sponsored by Senators Rick Nehemiah, Senator Chris Garton, and Blake Durrott. It is the wetlands bill, clarifies various wetlands definitions, eliminates certain wetland rulemaking requirements, provides that certain wetland activities require state authorization, clarifies the compensatory mitigation that must be offered to offset certain wetland activity, makes confirming changes and technical corrections. They're literally saying how they determine, in plain speak, how they determine what you can and can't do with the wetlands, they will decide. Right. So now it's just like what they're doing in Georgia with certifications, right? Well, we just going to change the rules on how things get done. Right. And so if we don't start electing more people to end that supermajority in the state house, again, Project 2025 is already underway. We are ground zero here in Indiana for Project 2025.
We are the test spot.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
Because we don't show up. We have a low voter turnout. But if we send some in that supermajority, some of this stuff we can stop. Just like Representative Bauer was able to fight tooth and nail and explain to people who are, I don't know what they are, that, poisoning people is not a good thing.
Right. Well, and what's the next step too? Privatizing water. That's where they want to head to. It's not a good deal for the public in any way, because the Indiana American Water Company is looking to privatize municipal water. This is a New Jersey-based American Water Company, the largest for-profit supplier of water and sewage treatment in the U.S. 86% of the U.S. gets their water from municipal resources. That's us. That's us. Our taxpayers
Taxes, yes.
have set that up. And now they want to privatize that. So government built all this over time with your tax dollars, your grandparents' tax dollars, to build it to where it is now. Now we're just going to sell it off and hope the highest bidder gives us some money, just like Mitch Daniels did with the toll road.
Oh, Jesus. Ooh, you about to, I mean, sustainable money for a longer period, forever versus a one-time lump sum. I know some people like that idea. If it's the lottery, yeah. But we're talking about maintaining roads and bridges and then every time we sell, like we sold the parking meters here in Indianapolis.
Yes.
The prices went up.
Right.
And
Chicago did it before you did it in Indy, and it was horrendous.
It's horrendous.
Yes.
And so now, I mean, you sell those things off. You sell off water. We're going to have like a Mad Max situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to, we need to this just gets me speechless, because you have to go over to West Virginia and talk to them about the selling of water, what happened to them in the coal industry, and they got, sold a bill of goods. And long story, fast forward, their water was contaminated. They were sold a bill of goods. The company would come and clean it up. No, they did not come and clean it up. You know what they did? They raised their prices on their bills. They had to pay for the cleanup.
Right. They didn't want to eat that. The company would not eat that cost. The cost was passed on to the consumer. Again, it goes back to environmental.
The electric company is doing the same thing right now. Duke Energy is working diligently right now to raise rates to protect a coal plant.
Yes. Right. And it took public discussion about it. In fact, I talked to Josh Lowry recently about it, and he stood at the mic before the 4th of July telling them, look, guys, you can't do this. And he was surprised by how many doors he's knocked on and people he's talked to that folks don't even know this was going on. They didn't even know they had a chance for public input. Yeah. So, I mean, if we could do anything consistently is sleep through the stuff going on in front of us. That's why the supermajority is where they're at and doing and dismantling the things they're doing right now, too.
And let's talk about this Duke Energy real quick. Because this is their plan, right? And I think it's already settlement agreement approved July 3rd. So beginning August the 1st, 2024, a typical residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt hour will see an increase of about 8.7% or $12.06 per month. Beginning August the 1st, 2026, residential rates will increase another 4.3%, resulting in an additional $6.42 per month. Beginning August 1st, 2024, commercial and industrial customers will see an average increase of around 4.6% and 4.4% respectively. This is what's happening. And so now we can't go without electricity, right?
Right.
We just can't.
And they know this.
Yeah,
they understand this.
A lot of people heat their house with electricity.
Now, now you're going to do that to water?
Yeah, they are.
Water is something that we should have access to because most of the planet is water. And we, you know what I'm saying?
This is baffling, but you have to step yourself back. And Duke Energy is a perfect example. Energy in the state of Indiana is a perfect example because you have to step back. You go back to the 1990s, 1999, there was a lot of studies done about where we're going in the future. Time evolves. Technology gets better. We need to move forward with this. In 1999, they said to Indiana, with this electricity, they said, your grid is going to age. You need to start putting these things in place to move the system forward for the technologies coming down the pike. And Europe is that many years ahead of us in terms of green energy. So we all knew it was coming. But you have to ask yourself, why did Indiana drag its feet on transitioning the infrastructure and moving to green energy?
Money.
money, and we are one of the number one states that still, in terms of 2005, we were still 81% producing our electricity from burning coal.
Coal.
But
And
there's
we have
money in it.
mines. There's some mines in this state too,
Yeah.
and that lobby is huge. The fossil fuel folks, all of it.
And
Yeah.
the coal ash pits are huge too. You know,
Yes,
the
and
things
they're
that are,
still polluting, yeah.
we're going back to the environment. Coal ash pits are poisoning the groundwater.
Right. Not in my neighborhood because I'm a rich guy, but those neighborhoods, they deserve it.
And I
Well,
don't,
let's talk to the kids. The number one
Yeah.
reason kids miss school is asthma.
yeah. Yeah,
But
they said if you have asthma, you shouldn't even live in Indiana.
Yep.
Yeah. True. How sad is that? And they wonder why we can't keep people here after my kids couldn't be happier to live somewhere else.
Yeah.
I can't, I talked about this endlessly, but that's just that small example, but we all know somebody whose kids left and went somewhere else. It could be, not that it's any better where they end up at, but this is going on everywhere. This is just one of those test cases. Missouri's dealing with this, Oklahoma, look what's going on in Mississippi and Arkansas and Alabama. I mean, just exploiting these neighborhoods to every dime they can get out of them. I mean, it goes back to we talked about it in one of our first episodes too, about the prison labor and the things that are going on there and how they're exploiting that as well too, working for pennies an hour at best that they get to take home. So it's always another angle to exploit some resource, human and or environment in this case.
So there was a report that was passed out by the it was reported on Energy News Network, and it says Indiana ratepayers spend hundreds of millions of dollars per year for power from coal plants that are operating despite the availability of cheaper sources, including wind and solar. The state is emblematic of a larger problem, as electricity markets rules typically allow utility-owned power plants to essentially cut in line, even when they are not the most economical option. A recent report commissioned by the Natural Resource Defense Council examined how this phenomenon plays out in the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, MISO, regional transmission organization, and specifically building on previous research by RMI. So basically, we're spending money to stay in a dirty, polluted industry, and it ain't even saving us. It's not saving us any money.
Right.
We're not getting the benefit from it.
Yeah. No, and what it's going to drive me bonkers is when you hear these energy companies say, well, the green energy is coming, the grid needs to change, we need to do this, we have to pass this on to your customers. But no, we had a chance to slowly implement and make this transition and do it the smart way. But you have to, because who we have at the State House, push it down the road, kick the can, and kick the can, and here we are.
The study goes on to say, because I want to piggyback on what you're saying, that the study showed that Indiana ratepayers bore the second highest burden in MISO, paying $338 million for uneconomic coal power from 2021 to 2023, just behind Louisiana at $341 million.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the theme that we keep talking about is, you mentioned it, Mark, about privatizing water. We talked about it last week with the health bales. We have a monopoly in hospitals here in Indiana, which makes everybody pay way too much more. I was at a birthday party this weekend, and I was talking to a family that lives down the street, and the father's a doctor and the woman's a pharmacist, and they have good insurance, and they had their baby here. They're actually both from Massachusetts, where I'm from, and they were mind blown. I mean, because when they had their child here, they have good insurance, $20,000 to have their
Yeah. And
that was with insurance coverage.
Exactly. And they're in a big city, a bigger metropolitan area, not that they're in the big city in any way, but I'm saying the rural folks, it's even more because there's less options for you too.
To do something that we've been doing since the beginning of time.
Thank you.
I said, really? I said, wait, you have insurance, didn't you say? I said, that was out of pocket. That wasn't the bill the insurance paid. And he clarified more times than not, because I kept asking the question because my mind was so blown. He said, no, that was out of pocket. That was out of pocket. 20,000 out of pocket.
And then they want to know why young people don't want to have kids.
Oh, they set the stage for that. Yeah. Right.
The thing is they're not going to stop, having fun with each other. So babies are going to get made. but that's why they want to listen.
Especially when they want to disintegrate anything to do with any kind of, it's not just reproductive rights. They want to just take away any kind of birth control.
Exactly.
Yes.
So not only do they want you spitting out babies, right? That you're going to be broke when you do it, and because you're broke, you're going to be living in a place where environmental injustice is staring you in your face, where you then could be poisoned by the water, the air, and all the things. Man, these people, don't tell me you about American people when obviously you could give two bleeps about Hoosiers and how we're living in this state.
Right. Yeah.
So I found and stumbled on Saturday the article by ProPublica, because I subscribe to them, that covered, they found the training videos for Project 2025. And it is some pearl clutching crap. I'm telling you, I have watched it. Dana Black, if you want to include in these show notes a link to their YouTube channel for ProPublica.
Absolutely.
Because they have hundreds of, well, it's not hundreds, but there's a lot of hours.
It's like 14 hours. Yeah.
14 hours of training videos. Some are 20 minutes, some are an hour long. And these people talk to you in, I can't even, it's like a movie, a really bad script from a movie, but these people are stone serious. And I tell you, if you've listened to any of us talk about this stuff, to see this firsthand, these are what they're getting. So I want to get rid of the EPA. Well, I know I'm going to join up with this. I love what Project 2025 is doing. I want to be one of those people that they install in government as soon as they get rid of that, and I'll go in there and burn that house down.
Yeah, they're literally giving them instructions on what to do, like scrubbing language, scrubbing, anything about climate change. That clown actually said climate change was seasons. Like,
yes.
This is what you're dealing with. They're not scientists.
It's not science-based in any way. No.
Well, that's why they want to get rid of the Weather Channel. We had a tornado warning about here a couple.
They want to get rid of the Weather Channel?
They want. Well, the reason why they want to get rid of the weather,
Ocean and Atmospheric Group, yes, so that whole group, yeah,
because they're the ones that have all the data to back up the climate change. I don't know if you know, but this year we had on record the 4 hottest days in a row globally.
Wow.
Okay, so you could obviously, because they're part of studying and documenting, and they have the science to back this up. So if you get rid of that agency, there's no proof. You got to get rid of the proof. We got to get rid of the truth.
Yeah.
That's like they won't let the CBC study gun violence.
Right.
It's the same thing. But just because you bury your head in the sand doesn't mean a thing doesn't exist.
Well, but the other thing is, when you dive into it, what do they want to do with NOA? They want to privatize it because they can hide all that information. They can hide,
and then you have to pay for it if you want it.
Well, we just had a hurricane come through down south. Don't you think they want the warnings? Don't you think they want the tornado sirens going off? We need all that. The blizzards in New England, the whole 9 yards.
But see, I guess it comes back down to, what do they want to have happen to the humans that are inhabiting this planet, that live in this country, that live in the state? What do you want because see, the French Revolution was a thing for a reason. You cannot keep mistreating people and doing things to make their lives miserable and they not come chop your damn head off.
That's right. Take it into the streets. If you don't even see it here in our media, the coverage of it, but labor in France prior to the Olympics here, the spring, farmers were bringing manure and parking it in front of truckloads of manure and dumping it in the streets right in front of all of their elected officials, saying you guys are ruining the farms industry. It was long and lengthy, but it's unionized in several areas too. But the point is the people brought it to the streets and said, no, we're done with you. You're killing us here. Same type of things that are happening here. Is that far right government that was happening, very close, but labor has won out there. But again, it was a very close fight. It shouldn't even be close. Look what's happening in the UK right now. It needs to be our turn here too. We need to turn this around.
I know, but see, unfortunately, we have too many clowns that believe that they're going to be wealthy one day. We got too many clowns who barely have a high school diploma, thinking that they're gonna come up with some massive business opportunity and they're going to be rich too. No, you're not.
No, and you're already at the peak.
And right, someone peaked in high school. Someone peaked as juniors. You know what I'm saying? Not even seniors. They peaked as
Right.
juniors.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is, again, people are they're going to get fed up. I mean, again, the civil rights movement, we got fed up. We got tired of
Right.
being lynched. We got tired of, not being able to vote or being shot or whatever because we couldn't vote. It's going to happen again. And I'm sorry, I've seen angry white people and what they can do. They will burn your whole damn town down.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask Heather Heyer. See what happened there, in Charlottesville. Yeah.
I started the conversation bringing up the Trump lies. We have to call these lies out because it's really gaslighting people. It's really making them believe. I'll share a story. I was, you know me, I'm at the grocery store, I'm at the bank. I'll talk to everybody. You register to vote? What do you think about Kamala? This is exciting. So I was talking to the woman at the bank and, I was saying, so what do you think about Kamala Harris? And she went down the rabbit hole. Oh, no. My prices are going to still go up. Inflation. We need to drill, baby, drill. I was like, okay, let's take a step back. And when you really dive into it, as we just outlined, that is not the answer. Okay. But you have to ask yourself, why are they made to believe that there's a connection? Because she went on to say, if we release this oil, which, as we just pointed out previously, that we have already been producing more oil globally in the United States, and we've also been producing gas for the European countries that have been affected by the war. That is not going to solve the problem, but they're made to believe that if we release more oil and that your gas prices are going to come down, and then that opens up the supply chain and all our prices would come down. And I, had to step back and say, while that seems like that would be the case, that's not the case. Okay, we did have higher supply chain problems. We all know that pandemic. Okay, that was the pandemic. But what is truly causing this price inflation? It's called greedflation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I will say back when we were still in the United States, only paying about 99 cents a gallon, Europe was ahead of the game and trying to get people to stop using fossil fuels. So when we were paying 99 cents a gallon, they were paying $5 a gallon as a
liter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. To de-incentivize people from wanting to use petrol. Right.
Yep.
Like it was a deterrent. Right?
Yep.
No, not us. So now that our prices are high, it's still not a deterrent because we still are dependent on it.
Yeah. People really need to understand how we came out of the pandemic, because you got Pepsi, you've got Coca-Cola, the two biggest companies that are controlling your prices on your snacks, on your drinks. But yet people say, hey, no. If you you drill all these, the domino effect, their business model will come down. But it's no. In 2021, they had $8 billion, 2021, Pepsi had an $11 billion profit. Okay. In 2023, they doubled that. Okay. Did the prices?
Yeah. No prices came down.
None.
Yeah.
Nope. But our prices went up.
And so did our waistlines and our weight.
Well, that is true.
Sugar
That
it up.
damn sugar. And
If you
snacks
start
and starch
looking at the profits they made and the prices they're charging us, there's a correlation, folks.
Absolutely.
And the second thing you have to follow through on that whole, here comes my economic side, is you've got 4 companies controlling our beef, our pork, the chicken industry. It's monopolies, folks, because they can decide pricing, which goes back to our theme about privatization. They're trying to privatize more and more of the industries out there so they can make more money, control the prices. We pay more, they make more, and we suffer.
But you know what? They think it's a good idea right now. And I'm going to go back to the Marie Antoinette reference that I made earlier. They think it's a good idea right now because they believe the walls that they're going to build around their crib will keep everybody out. But if you can't keep people from crossing the border and there's a whole river there's a whole moat, right? There's a moat at the southern border. If people want to get in, they getting in. So if you think you can be in your little gated community and you're going to be safe when people are hungry, and a father will do anything to protect his family, and he knows that you're up there gouging him for water, they will get to you. So they think it's a good idea right now until more people, and it's not minorities and gay people and trans people, and it's
people look like them.
Regular old straight people with blonde hair and blue eyes are hungry and they can't feed their families. They'll be knocking at the door, and doggone it, they're not going to like it because they got more guns
Right.
They got way more guns than anybody else does.
Yeah. I think people don't realize the reason why Biden and his supporter, not Biden, excuse me, Trump and his monopoly guys, when he had them all in the meeting when he was in Congress, he had the oil people there, just give me $1 million donations, I'll let you drill. I mean, that's what they're asking for.
Right.
The Biden administration is suing the meat industry, the Biden industry, because they're price fixing off
Right.
making money off the backs of the consumer.
Yeah.
The Biden industry is suing Amazon right now because of price gouging and artificially inflating prices because they can. Who's the competition to Amazon right now?
Nah, nobody. Not really.
Right.
Nobody.
When you allow our hospitals to control the prices, if you allow one or two or three big companies to control the pricing, drilling's not going to solve the problem, folks. That's not the answer.
And I'm
It's not going to fix the insurance industry either. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm gonna come back around where you talked about, only 4 companies controlling the beef, pork, chicken, all of that.
Yeah.
Think about it. They have these huge industrial farms where they're creating natural pollution, but in a concentrated area. And if you don't have somebody that's watching out for that and regulating that, just the regular animals will make the land so toxic that people can't live on it because they'll have these huge, not like, we used to be where my farm had about 5 cows and your farm had about 15 chickens. Now everything is highly concentrated.
5,000 head. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just all of that is problematic as well. So
In your groundwater quickly.
quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Guys. And listen, if you don't have clean air, clean water, who you marry and who you love ain't gonna matter.
Won't be here. You're generationally going to shut yourself down. Yeah, absolutely.
And as we think about, where we are in this Project 2025, talking about the environment and the impact it's having in Indiana, we already talked about how, poor air quality, poor water quality, killing the wetlands. And we're not even educating people to the point where they could be upwardly mobile. They're stuck here.
Right. They're trapped.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a cyclical cycle.
Yeah, guys, it's interesting. I was a little nervous about talking about the environment at first, but once you realize how many pieces of it are intertwined, you pull on one thread, the whole thing just comes.
We exposed quite a few threads throughout this last hour here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's something we need to follow because it impacts our kids' health, our family's health, the food we eat.
Yeah.
I don't know if the audience knows, but perfect examples is over in the Europe. I go back and forth to Europe because my husband's from over there. They don't allow GMOs in their food supply over there.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, that's every country. That's a universal thing they all can agree on.
Yeah.
Right.
Except for us.
Except for us.
Yeah. Well, but it's capitalism, You don't even know half the time what's in your food. If you don't grow it, you don't know what's in it. They used to tell me a long time ago, only shop on the outside wall of a grocery store. Don't buy anything in the middle.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, but in this day and age, you can have corporate responsibility. There's a lot of companies out there doing the right thing.
Right. But not enough of them. And the way that the greedy people are doing business, it makes it cost prohibitive for people to do right because it may cost a little more.
Or they'll get bought up because they say, I can't pass this up. I'm going to sell because I'm going to make this kind of money I could never have imagined. So I'm going to leave it. And then that is wiped out.
Yeah. And then you do like Zuckerberg and go buy a whole island.
Yeah.
I don't even know how they let him get away with that.
You're safe on that island, aren't you?
Right. No, because we have boats and planes. I can get to you, Zook. Yeah, this was a great hour. Okay, let's do call to action. I'll go first. And then Mary, and then Mark, you take us on out of here. Call to action, guys. The momentum is high. The call to action is find whatever it is that you're passionate about. I want you to, if it's dancing, if it's singing, if it's playing the drums, or if you're an artist or football, sports, or whatever your passion is, I want you to go back through policy for the last 5 years in Indiana and see which policies are applied to it and who wrote it and whether it was a good thing or not. Why am I giving you this exercise, right? You don't have to read every piece of legislation that comes down the pike. If you just pick out 1 or 2 things that are most important to you and find the policy that is applied to it, and then you will understand where your value system is and how you need to vote. And then you can amplify your thing. I have lots of little issues that I care about. and I'll find the policies for them. But just find one thing that you're passionate about and find a policy and who wrote it and how it will impact you. I think if we just take it a small bite at a time instead of trying to look at everything super big, we can really make a difference.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Dana. My call to action for this week is to really encourage people to come to the Democracy is in Session, Indianapolis. That screening I mentioned, Bad Faith. It's going to be Wednesday, August 25th. Come and learn. Come with an open mind, an open heart, and really keep it and share it. Bring a friend. Don't just go alone. Bring a friend or two or three, because that's how high the stakes are. This next election is going to decide a lot for here in Indiana and in the federal election. And I will also say, who you vote for locally, it matters. It matters. So my second call to action is look up who your local representatives are. Look up who's going to be on the ballot, go to their website and learn more about them. Step one, learn who they are. And what I think you will find that you will align more than you realize with their values. And once you do, show up to one of their meetings, introduce yourself, and then take it from there.
Oh, Mary, that's perfect. Thank you very much. I think what's key is we have to engage with these representatives. Do not think that they don't work for you.
They
you hired them.
Work for you.
They totally work for you. So the thought that, hey, once they're elected, I can't talk to them or anyway. I send emails all the time on the weekly to my representatives that are not responding in any way. But you know what I've found is the folks who want those people's jobs want to talk to you. They want to do a town hall. Think of that. We don't do town halls anymore. You know why? Because they're nervous about what kind of questions they're going to be asked and what they're going to be put on the spot like that. But now I'm finding like a Josh Lowry, Kyle Teeley, these folks who want to take it to the State House here are having these conversations and say, hey, I'm going to be at a coffee shop. Let's talk. It's Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Here I am. Think about that. If you read their websites, just like Mary talked about, there's some great detail. You share a lot of in commons. I'm asking you, wear that shirt that says Harris Walls on it. Take that to the grocery store. Have that discussion, because you know they're going to come to you and say, oh, really? You're going to support them? Be ready for that. Those are the kind of things we engage these people in conversations. The best that they have is a headline. We understand the entire article because we read it. We understand that part of it. All they have is a headline. When you say, really, why do you feel that way? You can't get a second answer from them because it's just drill, baby, drill. Really, why do you feel that way? They can't go any deeper than that. They're all surface. We just have to have these conversations. We can sway them, but we have to get involved and get in the pit and start talking about it.
Well, amen, preacher.
Thank you, Dana Black.
Yep. On that note,
y'all, this was a great hour of discussion. Man, I love you guys so much. All right, we're bringing you more Project 2025, and what was the other, something 47? You know,
Agenda 47, which is where they've tried to put a new shine to it.
Yeah,
but it's the same damn
Agent
thing.
Orange 47.
yeah, I don't believe it's the same pitch.
Yep. All right, we'll holler at you guys next week. Have a good one, guys.
All right. Thank you for listening. Click the like and subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode.
Let's Talk Indiana is a joint production of Mary Noone of Campaign Strategy, Mark Gevaart of My Labor Radio, and Indiana's own Dana Black of Turn Left.